I'm Tilly. I'm a dog behaviourist down in the southeast of England, offering home visits. And today I wanted to talk to you about street dogs, or namely dogs from abroad, particularly dogs from Romania, really, because that's where a lot of them have come from. But dogs from abroad in general, and the pros and cons of getting one. So the reason why I know a lot about them, one, I do have one. I've got a Romanian dog. She's now 8 years old. I got her when she was 4.5, and pretty much up until the last 6 months, we have been seeing dogs from abroad, particularly Romanian street dogs, more than any other type of dog. So only in the last 6 months it's changed. It's now Frenchies we're seeing the most of. Um, so we see a lot of them. Obviously, always pretty much for the wrong reasons. Unfortunately, that's why we see them, for behavioural problems. So this is why I kind of want to talk to you about it. If you're considering getting one, or even if you've got one and they're good and you want to get another one. So I just want to talk to you about what's good about them, what's bad about them, just to help you make that decision, really. So I'm going to start with the pros. Obviously, one of the main reasons people get these dogs is that they're much easier to get hold of. So a lot of these charities, they don't even do home checks. They might say they do home checks and then they may never do it. That makes life a lot easier. A lot of people find that quite nerve-wracking. But also, it basically means that they're less fussy about who they send the dogs to. So a lot of people are finding it hard to get a rescue dog. They want a rescue dog, they want to help, which, I solely say go for. You should definitely do it if you can. But a lot of people have got children and, even other dogs. And a lot of English rescues, they've only got dogs where they say no kids, no kids under 12, no other dogs, no other pets. So there's not many people in that position. And to be honest, if they are in that position, it's probably they've never had a dog, and now they're going to end up with a dog with severe behavioural problems if it can't be with children or other dogs. So, that's something worth bearing in mind, really. But all these kind of dogs from abroad, they don't really mind that. A lot of them have come from places where they are living amongst other dogs. They don't have kennels like we do. They basically have big runs where they'll put, between 5 and 20 dogs all in one place. To be honest, I think that's much better for the dogs than solitary confinement, where it's essentially like prison, where in our country that's how we kind of run things, and I don't think it's healthy at all. So the dogs from abroad, they're already in a pack, they're getting used to other dogs and things like that, so they can say that they're pretty much okay with other dogs, and then they'll often go to a foster home as well. Foster home will have about 10 dogs, so they're already used to it, so they can say yes, we can rehome it with dogs and things like that. But even so, a lot of them are puppies. So if you want a 5-month-old puppy, a lot of them are younger than the older ones, and to be honest, they are much easier than the older ones who might have some history. So getting a rescue puppy isn't that hard. You can just go on any of these sites. A lot of them are just on Facebook, and they will just sell you a puppy. They will ship it over, or they might already be in the UK. I got Flicker from Reading. I just drove to Reading for 3 hours, picked her up, chucked her in the car and brought her home. So it was very, very easy. There's no way at that time in my life a rescue centre would have, let me have another dog, because everything was just crazy. So it's much easier getting hold of them, to be honest. Another pro is that they do tend to be very intelligent dogs, which is fantastic to work with, especially the Romanian dogs. They're all very different, depending on what country you get them from, but they tend to have a particular kind of type. So the Romanian dogs tend to be that kind of natural colour, almost wolfy. Some people say it's German Shepherd. The correct term is agouti. That's what Flicker is as well. It's a natural colouring, and they tend to look kind of pastoral, which is like a collie essentially. They've got that kind of soft features, and they tend to be collie-like dogs, which is very good to work with. They're very human orientated and they're owner orientated. They want to please. They naturally want to listen. They're sharp. Like I said, they're intelligent. And it is a two-edged sword, though. They're sensitive as well, so that means they can make big changes very quickly in either direction. If you do the wrong thing, they're going to make big leaps the wrong way. If you do the right thing, they make big leaps the other way. So that's another pro to them. I haven't really found that much with the other dogs. Ukraine dogs are very similar to the Romanians. They're not the same look, but they do have that same personality of smart, affable and sensitive. when you go to other countries like Hungary, it tends to be more hound based. So you've got to kind of be aware of what you're getting. I wouldn't really bother asking the rescue centre what is this breed, because they won't know. They're just dogs that they pick up and they find. Some will definitely look like a breed. Although I saw one the other day and they said it was a husky cross, and I looked at it and it was because it had blue eyes, like really sharp blue eyes. And I looked at it and it's got this lovely soft white coat with a few tickling, so like tiny little spots underneath. It had the short legs, which is very typical of the Romanian dogs. And I looked at it and I thought, it's not a husky, it's a collie. It's a collie cross. It is so obviously a Merle collie cross. I don't know why they even thought it was a husky. It's nothing like a husky. Its personality is all collie. They just saw blue eyes and thought husky without even thinking blue eyes collie. But it was just so obvious. So I would not bother asking. Just use your eyes and see what you're seeing, really. Beware of adopting hounds or older dogs that have been on homesteads and things like that. Hounds, especially from abroad, very different from hounds in this country. They are used for hunting, which means they're independent. They will want to use their mouth for things. They've got a bit of attitude because that's what they like in hunting dog. That is not the same as a kind of Romanian street dog, pastoral type of dog. So it is different depending where you go. And again, I'm going to get into this, but don't necessarily believe the rescue. So this is the con side now. So those are the pros. There's a few of them and they're good. And also I have met some dogs which have got very, very mild problem. They just kind of wanted the finishing touches. And it's the most wonderful dog I've ever met. And it actually amazes me because I see so much extreme problems with them. So you can just get really lucky and just pick up just a really lovely dog, and it's just luck of the draw, and they'll be the best dog ever. So you can get that, and like I said, it's very easy to pick them up and get that feel good factor because you've rescued them rather than they've gone to meat or God knows what. So you can get a lot of good ones too. But onto the con side. So the con side is kind of literally sometimes it is a bit of a con. So that person with the collie cross, she tried very, very hard to get a rescue. She's 96. To be honest, that's the reason why no English rescues would give her a dog, because they know she's not going to last that much longer and the dog's going to have to be rehomed. So they're saying no. As well, she's very, very frail. Anyway, she got a dog from abroad. She picked it up at the airport. That's always a bit weird. I don't really like anything like that. It should be picked up from my home, to be honest. I've had other people where they drop them at the door in the dead of night from a van, so straight from the airport. Again, that's a big no-no. You're going to end up with a very traumatised dog. Anyway, she said, like, how much do I owe you? They never gave her a price. Again, a bit weird. And then the people, like, giving her this dog at the time just said, oh, well, it cost us £700. So she gave them £700. A standard price would be anywhere between 200 and 300. Don't pay any more than that because it's just ridiculous, to be honest. Yes, they have to have passports and they have to have travelling and things like that, but it's any more than that and it's just getting into con land. So, and this kind of falls into why they don't really do as much background checks on people, because they are literally, not all charities, some charities are doing a very good job, but some charities, as you can imagine, they are just scooping up dogs and they are just selling them to whoever. They don't really care. They're just passing the dogs along. Some will say you get support, and it's an absolute lie, because I've had people with very dog aggressive dogs and they've gone back to the rescue and said, I need some help with this dog. I did help them myself, but you are meant to go back to the rescue anyway and kind of tell them what's going on. And they just sent her really horrible emails just saying it's her fault and just completely wanted to not to know. And a lot of them are like that. They're just very much do not want to know. I had that with Flicker, got her at 5.5 months. I didn't know hardly anything to do with dogs like I do now. So that was, about 8 years ago. So anyway, the first 24 hours I had her, she ended up biting my housemate. Like I said, it was a bit chaotic, and it shouldn't have happened. I would not set any kind of program up where that would happen now, but she did, and it wasn't play, it was full-on aggression. And I contacted the rescue saying, what's going on? You said this dog was okay with dogs and people. It's just attacked my housemate. It's just attacked my my greyhound who's as soft as butter, you know, and she was saying, oh no, she's not aggressive, she's a puppy. But she was very, very fear aggressive, you know, and would use her teeth and would bite at that age. And that was, like I said, that showed up straight away. So one thing is that they do make stuff up. So whether they say they're dog friendly, kid friendly, whatever, does not necessarily mean that they are. They will make stuff up along with the breed. They know people want to know a breed, so again, they make it up. And they don't really want to know if there's behavioural problems, so you don't really get a lot of support. Some you do, like I said, you can find some. None spring to mind in my mind that are that great, not like an English rescue, well, as in dogs from this country, you know, a proper organisation. They offer a lot more support. So you do have to be aware of that. You pretty much are on your own. And yeah, they're not going to do any background checks, which, yeah, one works in your favour because you can just get a dog very easily. But at the same time, it's a disadvantage because they're just selling dogs to anyone. I mean, should they have sold that dog to that 96-year-old lady? I'm not sure, really, because she can't walk it. Even though it's quite small, it's about 12 kilos, but it's short, you know. She can't walk it because it gets overexcited when it sees dogs and it lunges. So there's no way she can walk it. You know, and I tried to explain this to her. I said, I can get him to walk nicely on a lead pretty quick, to be honest. But you will not be able to use these techniques. She can't move as fast. She has no physical strength. And you do make mistakes as well, right? So there's going to be times where the dog catches you off guard and lunges. But as an able-bodied person, you're going to have good balance and stand on your feet. Or even if you do fall, then it's not going to matter too much. But if you fall at 96 and you break something, the healing time is going to be so long, it's just not worth it. So that's what I mean. They are being a bit irresponsible in that way. But also you don't really know what you're getting, especially with older dogs. So be aware, like I said, if it says it's been living on a farm, chained up all its life, it will have had no socialisation. The only thing it probably would have practiced doing is barking non-stop at any guests or any dogs or anything. That's all it knows, is to be a guard dog. And you get it in your family home, which it was never designed to be in. It's designed to be outside on its own. Takes all these privileges, like, you know, the sofa and you know, people on the beds and whatever, and then it just takes over, and now suddenly you can't have guests around. That is what I really see these guys for, is guest aggression. And I do mean aggression. I don't mean barking, growling. I mean they will go and they will bite you. A lot of them are nervy, so they'll only bite you when you turn around, you know, on the back of the leg. But it's from a fear-based place, a lot of it. The Romanian dogs turn around very quickly as long as you are extremely strict. The other ones, like the Hungarian hounds, they're difficult. They are much more difficult because they have a bit more of an attitude. The Romanian dogs, I haven't found with attitude, they are just scared, or they think they're kind of doing a job. These guys are much more like, no, this is my house, these are my owners, get out of my way. I once got a hard nip on my leg just for getting in the way between a dog coming in from its garden into the house, and I just stood in the doorway. That's all I did. Didn't have a lead on it, which probably should have done. I had actually taken the muzzle off because it wasn't fitting right and I didn't feel comfortable, but I was a bit, you know, not awake on the day. Anyway, all I did was stand in front of it and it just nipped me to get me out of the way. You know, and it was up on the sofa and all whatnot, and they had kids and they had kids' friends around, and I was just saying, look, this dog is going to get, they'd only had it a few weeks and it was already displaying its behaviour, and I was like, this dog is going to get wildly out of control unless you get on top of this now. Anyway, they couldn't do it. They ended up sending it back. So just be aware of what you're getting. Definitely avoid, unless you've got a yard and you want, I don't know, your car's protecting or something valuable, avoid things like Kangals, Alabays, anything that's an actual breed that was bred in that country, you know, so do avoid those looks. Even Anatolian Shepherds and things like that, which are more common and you've probably more heard of them. Again, they're predominantly guard dogs. I saw one at Crufts a couple of years ago and it was beautiful, and the judge was looking at it and he was looking at its face, which obviously they do, and it just went for him, it just went for his hand. It didn't get placed, but I kind of thought maybe it should do, because actually it's displaying the correct behaviour. That is correct behaviour. They're not meant to be handled by people. They are guard dogs, so I feel like it shouldn't have got marked down for that. Anyway, that's what you've got to expect. Expect what you're looking at. The street dogs got Flick DNA tested in the end by Embark, which are the best ones. If you get your dog DNA tested, do not bother with anything else apart from Embark. They are the more expensive one, but there's no point laying out money for anyone else because they don't have enough breeds. So if the breeds aren't there, you're just going to get false results, and they're just going to make it up again, a bit like the rescues, they're just making it up. So do Embark. Flicker, as a lot of them are, is 100% village dog, which is not a breed. It is a dog that's that's semi-wild, has been bred itself over many years, has essentially come down from the mountains, got used to being around people, and bred kind of on the outskirts. So they're semi-wild dogs. That it's not, oh, some chihuahuas and a beagle got loose 50 years ago and they bred. No, it's not that. There's no domestication in that dog at all, and there is a lot of dogs like that. When you can see a colour or proper pattern, or I can sort of see some cocker, that's a lot better, because it's, you can see there is some actual real breed in there. It's easier to work with. But otherwise you have got this kind of wild dog thing in your house, which, again, you've got the intelligence, sensitivity, it's all good, but rules mean a lot more to them than our domestic dogs, and that's why people find it harder, to be honest. So you do have to bear that in mind when you're looking at it. You do have to be very, very strict. So, I mean, they can't just have stuff for free. They can't just get on the sofa when they want or pull you down the road. It's like, no, wait, come here, wait. The whole house has to be like that, right? You're in the way, get out of the way. You sit there, stay there, wait there for 10 minutes while I read a book. Right, okay, you can be released. Have a chew toy. You can have fun and have games, but it can't be manic all the time, because that's when it can overspill into other areas, like, oh, I'll just guard the house now, or oh, I'll just bark at all the dogs, or oh, I just won't come back today on a walk. It has to be very, very strict all the time, which again is another potential con. I don't mind it too much, because I'm naturally like that anyway with my dogs, but some people just want a dog that's going to sit on the sofa with them, or even in their bed and stuff like that. If you do want that, then I recommend no abroad dog really is going to tolerate that very well. I recommend something like a Cavapoo, something that's been bred for a lap dog. Lap dogs can often tolerate being on laps. Not all of them, again, can. Depends. Some get separation anxiety from it. But these dogs from Romania, Hungary, whatever, they don't tolerate being given that privilege of being on your lap too well. They often start guarding, or they get separation anxiety from it. Another kind of con versus pro thing that you're going to get, you could get this with any rescue dog, not just dogs from abroad, to be honest, but that they do have a kind of, often they've had a history of mistreatment. If you can find one that has been in a family home, and again, not a homestead where they've been chained outside, but in a home, that's going to be much better. A lot of them are picked up from the streets. I don't know what it's like now, but certainly 6 years ago, the stories that were coming back were things like they try and deliberately run them over. If they see them, along the roadside, they will change the car's direction to purposely run them over. They're very much like that, and so the dogs will have an inherent fear of cars and people. That's very difficult to work with. So some of them are nervous because they've had stuff done to them, and a lot of them are naturally nervous anyway. It kind of goes with that kind of sensitive thing, really, in the personality. So that's why Flicker was nervous aggressive when I got her. I don't think anything had happened to her because she was picked up really, really small and bottle fed, I believe, so nothing would have happened. But just because she didn't have that early socialization, and genetics play a role too, she's very, very nervous of everything. And it's not like when I see a lot of fear aggressive dogs, right? But they're kind of like cockapoos or collies or whatever. They're all domestic breeds. The dog isn't necessarily inherently nervous. They just don't understand the situation, or they think they're trying to protect the owner, or whatever. They just feel vulnerable and the owner's not stepping up to the plate, and that's why they feel nervous. These dogs tend to be inherently nervous, and what I mean by that is that Flicker, for an example, anything new, she will always be nervous about it. That's just the first thing. It doesn't matter if it's a box in the living room, or if my son's got a new toy and it's just there. It doesn't have to be moving or anything, but she will naturally be nervous. And it's the same when we're out. There could be a plastic bag. I mean, I used to work with horses, and she is more spooky of things than a horse, and that's just her natural thing. And because she's slightly confident, and because she unfortunately learned that this works, she just goes straight to aggression. Not with a plastic bag, but if things come towards her, so something that she deems scary, which is all things new, right, if it comes towards her and doesn't stop, she will use aggression to get it to back away. And this is usually with animals, so normally dogs and people.
But what that means is that when she uses aggression, most things, 99% of living creatures will back off. So that only reinforces her aggression. It's like, oh, well, I didn't like that. Aggression works then. And then it becomes ingrained in them. But nervous dogs are far more likely to get aggressive because they just find things more frightening that a confident dog would just brush off. You know, if you have a confident dog and an off-lead dog comes zooming towards it, even if it bowls them over, even if a confident dog gets kind of attacked and snapped at, they will just brush it off. As long as you don't get hysterical and you're not screaming or shouting, your confident dog will just brush it off. Might be a bit more wary for a bit, they might be wary of that breed, but nothing bad will happen. A nervous dog, so again, I'm going to use Flicker as an example, she has what I call traumatic incidents, and nothing has to happen for her to be traumatized. She just has to have a dog come up to her. It doesn't have to touch her, it just has to kind of stand in what she thinks is a very scary way, so maybe with its tail up or its head up. And for her, that's a bad incident, which means that she will want to use aggression with the next dog because she's just been traumatized by it. So sensitive and nervous dogs are far more likely to find these incidents terrifying than a confident dog. Again, it is luck of the draw. Like I said at the start, some of these dogs, and I have met them because, like I said, owners just want to tidy up or they want a bit of advice, and they're fantastic, and it's incredible to see them, to be honest. The dogs I have seen, none of them have looked like that kind of German Shepherdy, Wolfie type, by the way. They've always looked like they've got some sort of real breed in them, or at least their coat is a solid colour. Not that you haven't got kind of like a light undercoat, dark guard hairs going on. They're all solid, brown or tan or white, with the speckling. So there is obviously something domestic going on with them. But you can get, fantastic dogs. But I would only get, if you're going to go for a second one, I'd only get a second one if you're allowed to kind of go and see them, maybe a group, and you're a very good judge of character. So you're like, that one's overconfident, I don't want that one. Or that one's hiding in the corner and that's a bit nervy, I don't want that one. That's the only time I'd really recommend them. Or if you've got, like I said, like a homestead or whatever, or a farm, great, yeah, they need that. They need a lot of stimulation because they've been used to running around the streets. So you could say this one is really a pro and a con, depending on what way you look at it. They tend to be very high energy and need a lot of stimulation because, one, genetically, like Flick, she's a village dog. They're not ever designed to be tired because they're meant to live in the wild. So you don't want a dog getting tired after an hour of hunting down rabbits, otherwise it's going to die pretty much. So she can go for 5 hours, even though she's 8 years old. She's happy to do 5 hours running, sprinting and chasing things. I can't always supply that for her, so I've given her a backpack, which has massively helped. Just putting some weights in that has massively helped her exercise regime. But you've got to allow for that, so a lot of them will want or need a lot more exercise, and also they'll need some sort of enrichment daily. So every few hours it's like have a puzzle toy or a frozen Kong or a rope studded up with treats, or we're going to play a game where I'm going to teach you the name of an object, now you've got to find it. They need a lot more than that. And like I said, it's a pro and a con because some people want a dog that's going to be really interactive. If you check out YouTube, you're going to find the dogs that speak. They press all those buttons. It is real. They can talk and say various things, which is amazing. A Romanian dog will be fantastic at that if you've got the time. But if you haven't got the time, if you're looking for a dog that you're going to walk half an hour, maybe an hour, or an hour and something at the weekends, they're not the best dogs to get because you're always going to be fighting a losing battle for draining that energy. And then when the energy isn't drained, the problem behaviours start. If you don't use their mind will find other things to do, and it is almost always things that you don't want. So excessive barking, excessive digging, chewing, or it might be just frustration like guarding, anything like that. It's like, I'm going to pull on the lead instead, or I won't come back today on the recall. It will always, excessive energy always overspills. So that's another thing to bear in mind with these dogs. But like I said, I do have one. I do specialise in them. So if you are listening to this thinking your dog's got a problem behaviour, generally, especially the dogs from Romania and Ukraine and all that, they're quite easy to fix in a way because the dogs are intelligent, so they learn fast. So they can be fixed when you get the hounds. Again, it can be fixed. I believe any problem with any dog can be fixed, but it is always harder. The programs are always stricter, and you're going to have to treat it less like a dog and more like a working dog almost. And it's a very different relationship, unfortunately, which you know, a lot of people aren't prepared to do. They want something to love and that's, you know, that's not going to be nasty about it and sit on the sofa and come with them everywhere and be happy. But you've got to make that assessment on what's going on. And yeah, if you're looking for a new rescue dog and you're adamant you want a rescue dog or a young dog, again, dogs from abroad, they're easy to get a hold of, and you might get lucky and you might get a really, really good one that's not much different from our domestic dogs. As long as, yeah, you still got to be strict. You've got to be strict with all puppies and give them guidance in, you know, up to a year really of training. But it's just knowing what's best for you and things like that. A lot of people go into these dogs from abroad and street dogs without really knowing much. And this, I just wanted to kind of open some eyes really, because I didn't know anything when I got Flick. I was like, oh, that's strange, they're from abroad. Okay, I'll just pay, and here she is, you know, dumped on my lap with absolutely no information about her. Nothing's going on, complete fabrication of her behaviour. Said she was low energy. She's actually the highest energy dog that I've ever met or worked with. She's the most nervous dog I've ever worked with. She's very, very twitchy, intelligent. But yeah, that does cause its own issues, because she's trying to always step in. So she's like, that's a threat. I feel I need to step in. So I'm constantly having to be, even now, it's like, no, I'm here, I've got you, you're safe, do not go up to that person or that dog, you don't need to check that out. She's meant to be, I say they're meant to be the backup, they're not meant to be like the first person, the one that's going in and making these decisions. If anything goes wrong, she will absolutely be there and probably be delighted to step in, you know, she's very much that way. But even now I have to be like, don't go looking for trouble, because that's her natural thing. It's like, what's going on? And even the other day, we own a cat. I walked her off lead with cats. She's very good at the cat training, but there was two cats stalking each other, and she doesn't like this. She doesn't like any tension, and they were on the other side of the road, and they weren't even fighting, and they were just stalking, and she noticed it straight away, and she just had a little wobble on the lead, you know, a little flurry of barks, a little, you know, jumping up and down, wagging her tail and going all kind of wobbly and spinny, really, really fast reaction, just because they were a bit tense. So that's kind of what potentially you could be dealing with, something that sensitive, that they're going to catch something the other side of the road way before you do and start making decisions about it, whereas actually they're not qualified to make decisions and they're going to make bad decisions. Like Flicker wants to go in and tell the cats off, tell them to stop fighting, when it's nothing to do with her. It's just the neighbour's cats doing what cats do. So it's just stuff to bear in mind. I don't want to sound like I'm having a go at all the charities, because there have been some fantastic ones, and they go out and they do find abused and neglected dogs, and they do find dogs that are, you know, going to be there and trapped in little boxes, and they've got to rescue them from the meat factory, and that's all well and good. But I don't necessarily that bringing them over here to the UK full of unsuspecting people, some of whom haven't had any dogs, and think that owning a dog is a bit like having a rabbit. It's just something that lives around you, when actually it's a constant working relationship and something that needs to be done every day, several times a day, and making sure your interaction is right. I don't necessarily think that that's going to work out. You know, a lot of them are going to be sent back or put down, because they just can't cope with being in our world so much. So I do want to brush on something actually very quickly, which is not necessarily relevant to kind of owning a street dog or anything, but it's just an example, which is, I kind of had my suspicions about this. I kind of thought, there's a lot of dogs coming from Romania, and I know that, you know, 250 quid out there is going to mean a lot more than it is here. I think they're probably breeding them, to be honest, and sending them over. That was my initial reaction, because they were always puppies. There were never any adult dogs 6 years ago, and I just thought it was a bit weird. Anyway, last year, or maybe the year before, something came up, which was a rescue centre, and they got all these dogs, and they had all this dog food piled up in the corridors, and they went in with cameras, and there was, like, you know, about 100 dogs and cats, and they'd all starved to death by about 30, and it was really horrid. I recommend do not watching it, but it was really terrible, and they were curled up in their beds together, which was really sad, because to me it proved that they wouldn't, even though they were starving, they wouldn't eat each other. They wouldn't even eat their dead friend. You know, all they had was each other, and they just died together in their beds. And it was just an absolute con, because they were getting people's money, I don't even know why they even bothered having the dogs, to be honest. They should have just left them on the streets. At least they could feed themselves. But that is what I mean. You don't know what's going on. You're just getting these videos from Facebook, and some, not all, some do very good work, but it is very open to abuse. So again, just be aware. Just be aware of those things. Thank you for your time today, guys, and I'll catch up with you soon.
If you're interested in more videos or stuff that I do, I am on TikTok. I usually put my TikTok videos also on Facebook and Instagram, so just search Fawn Dog for those. And the main website is fawndog1to1dogtraining.co.uk. Thanks for listening, guys.